Robert Wilson, a wealthy executive, humiliates his fiancée, Debbie, by leaving her at the altar in front of hundreds of guests. He wasn't proud of his actions, but he felt at peace, knowing that he won't be tied down to one woman for the rest of his life. Debbie, in front of all the guests and bridesmaids, vows to exact her revenge and destroy Robert's life. Her anger knew no bounds. 3 weeks after the ruined wedding, Robert was relaxing on vacation in the Bahamas when he got calls from his lawyer and his father. Debbie had publicly filed a huge lawsuit against him, asking for millions in damages for emotional distress. Robert was stunned and had to end his vacation early to deal with the court case. With public support, Debbie was completely on top of the case, and the judge, who was a recent divorcee, gave Robert no chance to argue. Robert, ready to pay compensation, but Debbie was not only demanding money from him, she also demanded reparations from his entire family. She demanded complete ownership of his entire family estate. As absurd as it sounds, the judge ruled it in her favor. Robert and his lawyers met privately with Debbie to settle the matter, just as she had anticipated. But instead of money, Debbie demanded full control over Robert for 1 year. He would live with her, follow her orders, and undergo feminization, including being renamed Roxy Valentine. His stunned lawyers reviewed the 50-page contract detailing the humiliating terms. Robert had 24 hours to either accept or convince his family to give Debbie the entire family estate. Stunned, Robert laughed nervously and called his father, but his father offered no way out. Surrendering to Debbie was the only way to protect the family's fortune. Desperate, Robert begged for another option, but Debbie, cold and firm, gave him 2 minutes to decide. With panic rising, he dropped to his knees, pleading, but she only smirked and called him Roxy. Shaking and humiliated, Robert signed the contract, sealing his fate. His secretaries, women he'd mocked for years, handed him a small duffel, grinning as they told him everything else, suits and all, was staying behind. His parents gave one last teary hug. At Debbie's apartment, cameras flashed, the living room festooned in streamers. The name change certificate sat waiting. Robert, throat tight, signed it. The girls erupted in cheers as he became Roxy Valentine. After a restless night at Debbie's, Roxy woke in satin sheets, panic rising as yesterday's surreal nightmare solidified. The girls were relentless, dragging her to a salon for bridal prep, debating curls, blush, and accessories while giggling over her discomfort. Debbie beamed, savoring every second. They handed him a pink robe stitched with Roxy to begin the makeover. After hours at the salon, he was poured into a lavish bridal gown and high heels. Debbie snapped endless photos, savoring his shame. Then came the final blow. She called the press, inviting a gawking crowd to witness Roxy's grand debut. When the moment arrived, poor Roxy had no choice but to step out into the streets. The crowd erupted into laughter as he tiptoed forward, his balance wavering with each forced, hesitant step. Cameras flashed from every angle, reporters barked out questions, and the sheer volume of jeering voices filled his ears. By the time the ordeal was over, Roxy was utterly drained. Her feet throbbed from the relentless strain of the heels, and her head spun from the sensory overload. That night she collapsed into bed, exhausted beyond belief, the rustling of her pink silk nightie serving as an unwelcome reminder of her new reality. The next morning, lying beside her on the bed was a freshly printed newspaper. Her heart pounded as her eyes fell on the bold headline, "Local businessman becomes a bride." Below the headline was a mortifying cover image, her teetering in her bridal finery, mouth slightly open in horror, frozen in a moment of sheer humiliation. The nightmare wasn't over. It was only just beginning. Debbie had transformed Roxy's room into a pastel prison, pink sheets, lace curtains, and dainty decor sealing her fate. Still reeling from the bridal humiliation, Roxy rushed to scrub off the makeup, only for Debbie to appear, makeup kit in hand.
"Never without permission,"
she warned, reapplying blush, lipstick, and eyeliner before crowning Roxy with a pink tiara, the sissy's crown. From then on, Roxy's days were a blur of chores, heavy makeup, and rotating, frilly, revealing outfits that left no dignity behind. Roxy pleaded Debbie to stop, promising to make things right, but Debbie only smiled and tightened control. A strict diet, Daily estrogen pills and daily routines wore Roxy down. Her body softened, hair thickened, thoughts grew hazy. At first, she often hesitated, but after weeks, the fight simply vanished. She did her makeup, dressed in frills, floated through chores without protest. Debbie watched with quiet satisfaction. This was only the beginning. Bigger plans were already in motion. By month 3, Roxy moved through a routine with deadened eyes, but the fire hadn't fully died. When Debbie handed her flowers from a male admirer, something snapped. Roxy screamed, hurled the bouquet, shouting, "I'm not Roxy! I'll never be a woman!" Debbie only smirked. Time for a lesson. Reminding her of the contract, she dragged Roxy back to the salon. This time, twin ponytails, ribbons, corset, glittering earrings, lace choker, comically feminine. When Roxy saw her reflection, she broke again, sobbing, furious, begging them to cut it all off. Instead of cutting it short, they styled Roxy's hair into a sleek, feminine bob, then dyed it pastel pink. Just as panic set in, Debbie handed over legal papers. Any defiance meant a contract extension beyond 3 years and financial penalties for Roxy's family. Her knees buckled. "Please, just don't extend it," she sobbed. Debbie gave a cold smile.
You've got 1 week to prove it.
That week was hell. It began with Debbie slowly, meticulously shaving Roxy smooth, each pass of the razor peeling away the last scraps of who she used to be. Next came ballet lessons. Roxy, in a tight white leotard and heels, twirling and stretching beside graceful girls who giggled at her awkward moves. She bit back tears, knowing defiance meant worse. Then the slumber party hit. Debbie's friends dressed her like a supermodel, made her dance in heels, teased her non-stop. They gossiped about men and nudged Roxy to admit her admirers. When the bouquet came up, she just nodded, silent and afraid, the last of her pride dissolving. Nothing prepared Roxy for this. Debbie invited her parents for tea. Panic churned in Roxy's gut. She gave Debbie a silent, desperate look, met only with a smirk. When she entered, it was in the gaudiest gown yet, makeup caked on, lace choker tight, earrings swinging. Her parents sat frozen, mouths agape. Then came the blow. "Hello, I'm Roxy Valentine." Debbie played clips, Roxy dancing, obeying, humiliated. Her parents said nothing, no comfort, just silence. As they left without a glance, something in Roxy shattered. Debbie leaned in, smiling.
Don't worry, sweetheart. I won't extend your punishment. Yet.
If you are interested in Roxy's complete journey and a more extensive story, please check out my Patreon for over 70 pages, 100 illustrations, and detailed story. On YouTube, I only post snippets and short stories. But if this video does well, I might consider posting the next part here, so do let me know your thoughts and comment what you think will happen in the next part.